Ever been in a room full of people smiling at you, but something inside you whispers, "This isn't right"? Maybe it was during a moment you were supposed to feel proud. A new opportunity. A win. Everyone clapping. Everyone saying the right words. But beneath the surface, something felt off. It wasn't what they said, it was how they said it. The smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. The compliment that felt rehearsed, the silence that spoke louder than the applause. See, envy doesn't always show up with a frown, and deceit doesn't always wear dark colors. Sometimes it dresses up, it claps, it says, "Congratulations," while hoping you fall flat the second you turn your back. And that's what makes it dangerous. Not the noise, not the conflict, but the pretense, the slow erosion of trust that happens not through confrontation, but through confusion. Stoicism doesn't just teach us how to stay calm. It teaches us how to see clearly, to sharpen the mind so we don't get pulled into the performance, to trust our reason, our instincts, and our pattern recognition, especially when things seem fine, because that's when the real threats hide. Not in the obvious enemies, but in the disguised ones. Not in criticism, but in subtle sabotage. In this video, you'll learn 10 Stoic strategies that will help you detect envy and deception before they sink their hooks into your peace. These aren't philosophical thought experiments. They're real, usable tools, the kind that protect your mind, your relationships, and your time. So if you're done second-guessing your gut, if you're tired of pretending everything's okay when something clearly isn't, if you want to move through life with a clearer filter and a quieter mind, you're in the right place. Drop a comment below saying, "I'm ready for clarity," and let's get into it. 1. Watch what they do, not what they say. Words are cheap. Anyone can say the right thing, especially when it costs them nothing. Praise, support, friendship, they're easy to fake when spoken out loud. That's why Stoicism teaches us to put more weight on action than intention, more trust in what people show us than what they say. If someone claims to support you but disappears when you need them most, pay attention. If they cheer for your success in public but never lift a finger in private, take note. The truth of who they are isn't in the compliments. It's in the silence, the absences, the missed calls when things got hard, the help that never came when it actually mattered. I've learned that some of the most envious people won't try to sabotage you directly. They won't argue. They won't attack. They'll just withhold. They'll say, "Let me know how I can help," and then vanish when you do. They'll call you brilliant and yet never recommend you. They'll clap the loudest, but somehow never show up when the room is empty. Stoicism teaches you not to become bitter about this, but to become aware. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And that's the deeper layer here. We don't just observe others. We hold ourselves to that same standard. If we expect consistency from those around us, we have to embody it too. If we value integrity, we have to practice it even when no one's watching. So start with this. Observe, gently, silently. Watch how they behave when there's nothing in it for them. Watch how they act when your name comes up and you're not in the room. The people who want the best for you will find small, quiet ways to show it. The ones who don't, their silence will be louder than their applause ever was. That's your filter. That's your first shield. Don't trust the performance. Trust the pattern. 2. Study how they react to your wins. Success has a strange way of pulling the truth out of people. It reveals things no argument ever could, not through conflict, but contrast. You rise, and suddenly the room shifts. Some cheer, some shrink. Some get quiet in a way that has nothing to do with being shy. It's not just who claps. It's who looks uncomfortable doing it. That discomfort is data. And Stoicism teaches us to read that data without emotion, without delusion, without apology. When you begin to rise, when your hard work pays off, when doors open, when your name starts to carry more weight, those around you will reveal their inner alignment, not always with words, but with presence, with tone, with timing. Some people celebrate you until your growth outpaces their comfort. You'll hear things like, "Don't let it go to your head," even though you've said nothing, or "You've changed," not because you've become arrogant, but because you've stopped playing small. You'll feel the temperature drop when you walk into the room. Subtle things, a missed congratulations, a quick change of subject, a compliment with just a little sting tucked inside. And if you're not grounded in your purpose, it'll start to get to you. You'll begin to shrink again. You'll downplay your success to make others comfortable. You'll keep trying to be relatable when what you're really doing is apologizing for your progress. That's why the Stoics taught us to detach from applause, not because celebration is wrong, but because it's unreliable. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to let praise or criticism distract from the work, because both are outside your control. What's within your control? Your clarity, your peace, your ability to see through a fake smile and stay centered. So how do you spot envy in your circle? You don't need confrontation, just observation. You watch who suddenly gets quiet when you speak with confidence, who no longer shows up now that your struggles are behind you, who offers congratulations but never support. These are signals, not insults. Read them, adjust, protect your energy. And most importantly, don't stop shining just because someone else is still stuck in their shadow. You don't owe anyone your dimming. You owe yourself the truth. 3, notice how they treat the powerless. If you want to understand someone's character, don't watch how they treat you. Watch how they treat someone who can't offer them anything in return. No status, no opportunity, no advantage. That's where the mask slips. Stoic philosophy has always been rooted in equality, in the idea that dignity isn't something assigned by wealth or power, but something every human being carries by virtue of existing. Epictetus, born a slave and later a teacher of emperors, spoke from lived truth when he said that our worth isn't determined by external labels, but by how we conduct ourselves and how we treat others. You've seen it before, someone who's warm, charming and attentive when the CEO is present, but cold and dismissive to the person serving coffee. Someone who praises the successful but ignores the intern. The moment someone believes they're above another person, you've seen the real hierarchy they carry in their mind. And it's not built on values, it's built on ego. People who operate from envy and deceit are often transactional at their core. Their kindness is calculated. Their respect is selective. They know how to put on a show when there's something to gain. But when the audience is gone, so is their character. This is one of the simplest, most reliable tells. Pay attention to how someone treats those who are beneath them. Do they smile with the same warmth? Do they listen without rushing? Do they offer help without needing recognition? If they do, they're real. If they don't, if they reserve their best behavior for people who can elevate them, you're not looking at sincerity, you're looking at strategy. And this isn't just about spotting envy in others, this is about checking ourselves too. Because Stoicism demands we live our values, not just speak them. When you're in a position of influence, how do you treat those with less? When you're not being watched, are you still kind? Seneca said, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Let that be your compass. Because in a world full of people performing for power, your peace begins with this question. Do their actions stay the same when no one is looking? And do yours? That's how you spot character, and that's how you protect your peace. 4. Learn the difference between praise and flattery. Praise and flattery may sound the same, but they come from very different places. Praise is rooted in truth. Flattery is rooted in agenda. One builds, the other manipulates. The Stoics warned us about this long before modern psychology caught up, because they understood something crucial. A person who flatters you excessively is not necessarily admiring you. They may be preparing to use you. Flattery feels good. That's the trap, especially when you've worked in silence for so long, when you've endured failure and rejection, when your progress hasn't been seen. Suddenly, someone showers you with compliments. They notice everything others missed. They seem supportive, affirming, loyal, and maybe they are, but maybe they're not. This is where the Stoic's eye for detail becomes your protection. Excessive, unearned, or oddly timed praise should never be dismissed, not because it's always malicious, but because it's often strategic. The person who constantly calls you brilliant, who tells you you're the glue holding everything together, might genuinely mean it. Or they might be softening your guard. They might be securing access, positioning themselves, making sure that when the time comes, you'll be too flattered to see the move they're about to make. And here's the real danger. If you don't anchor your worth in something deeper, you'll start chasing the flattery. You'll mistake it for validation. You'll start relying on it. And by the time the real motives show up, you'll be too invested in the approval to walk away clean. The Stoic path offers a different strategy. Thank people for their praise, then forget it. Don't absorb it. Don't lean on it. Let it pass through like wind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." So ask yourself, is this praise or is it performance? Does it align with their actions? Or is it louder than it needs to be? Are they building with me, or building a version of me they can later leverage? Real praise doesn't need to be constant. It shows up quietly, steadily, without needing a stage. Flattery comes dressed up, loud, overdone. Don't mistake volume for sincerity. In a world that confuses attention with affection, the Stoic learns to separate the two, and in doing so protects their peace from those who use compliments as currency. 5. Pay attention to their patterns, not their promises. People can promise anything. They can speak of loyalty, trust, shared values, all the right words, wrapped in all the right tones. But Stoicism teaches us not to trust isolated moments. Trust patterns. Because consistency reveals character in a way promises never can. There's a subtle deception in charm. It hides behind eloquence, humor, and timing. Someone can seem completely aligned with your values until the pressure comes, until opportunity appears, until they're asked to choose between what's easy and what's right. That's when the truth steps forward. I once worked with someone who said all the right things about fairness, teamwork, integrity. But when a high-stakes client came into the picture, everything shifted. He started changing the narrative, taking quiet credit, making small decisions without consultation. The values he preached disappeared the moment ambition came calling. At first, I was confused. Maybe he's stressed. Maybe it's just temporary. But over time, it became clear. This wasn't new. This was who he really was, revealed through pressure. That's why Stoicism puts so much weight on repetition, not in words, in behavior. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about who people claimed to be. He observed how they acted. He understood that integrity is not loud, it's steady, and that the person who shifts their values depending on the audience doesn't have values. They have tactics. So what do you look for? You watch what people do when they think it doesn't matter, when no one is watching, when the stakes are low, then again when the stakes are high. You see if their decisions reflect the same principles over time, or if their ethics dissolve under pressure. And it's not just about others. Stoicism demands you hold yourself to the same standard. Are you the same person in quiet moments as you are when people are watching? Do your actions match your beliefs, even when no one's keeping score? Because people who envy, who deceive, who manipulate, they rarely fall apart in big, dramatic ways. They slip in small, consistent patterns, in loyalty that bends, in values that fade, in words that echo but never anchor. If you want to protect your peace, don't just listen to what people say about who they are. Watch who they keep being. That's the real story, and that's the one worth trusting. 6. See how they handle criticism. If you really want to know who someone is, correct them, not with anger, not with humiliation, just honest, constructive feedback. Then watch what happens next. That moment when someone's ego is touched reveals far more than 100 compliments ever could. Some people will hear it, pause, and reflect. Others, they'll flinch, get defensive, laugh it off, or worse, retaliate, because for them being corrected doesn't feel like guidance. It feels like exposure. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." That's not just a quote. That's a standard, a way to live, and a way to filter the people around you. People who are secure, truly secure, can accept correction without collapsing. They can listen without needing to win. They understand that being wrong doesn't mean being unworthy. But people who are driven by envy, insecurity, or the need to control will take even the gentlest feedback as a threat. And here's where it gets dangerous. These are often the same people who praise you most when things are good. They flatter you when you're on their side, when they benefit from your approval. But the moment you challenge them, even beside the team, who decided to kiss it philos, kirdiki obatistin dean. Kindness, their tone shifts, the mask slips. They'll downplay what you said, discredit you to others, or withdraw entirely and play the victim. That's why Stoicism teaches us not just to give feedback with calm and intention, but to watch what it reveals. Because someone's response to being challenged shows you whether they value truth or control. Whether they're building a partnership or building a hierarchy they need to stay on top of. And don't forget to turn the lens inward. Ask yourself, how do you respond to correction? Do you breathe, listen, learn, or do you immediately defend, justify, push back? The Stoic life is one of constant self-honesty, and the more comfortable you become with feedback, the easier it becomes to spot those who aren't. So next time you find yourself wondering who you can trust, who's really for you, and who's just managing optics, offer a small, honest critique. Then watch closely, because truth isn't revealed in agreement, it's revealed in discomfort. 7. Catch the subtle comparisons. Not all envy sounds like envy. Sometimes it sounds like a compliment, followed by a quiet jab. Sometimes it doesn't sound like anything at all. Just a name dropped at the wrong time, a comparison that wasn't needed, a casual "but have you seen what they did" when you were simply sharing something you're proud of. And if you're not paying attention, it slips right past you. But if you've felt that sting, even once, you know exactly what it is. Stoicism teaches us to observe these moments without overreaction, but also without denial. Because comparisons, when used with subtle intention, are rarely innocent. They're a way of shrinking your progress without directly challenging it. A way of saying, yes, you're doing fine, but not that fine. And that's how envy often speaks, not in insults, but in suggestions. It sounds like, "That's cool. You know, Sarah did something similar last year, but with a much bigger team." Impressive, but have you seen what Marcus pulled off? That guy's on another level. You weren't asking to be compared. You were sharing a win, a step forward. But for some people, your success is a mirror they don't want to look into. So they bring someone else into the frame. Someone they think will put you back in place. The Stoic response: don't argue, don't defend, don't compete, just see it. Because their comparison says more about their state of mind than your achievement. It reveals a discomfort with your growth, a need to bring the conversation back to a level where they feel secure. Epictetus taught, it's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. The Stoic skill here is not to take these comparisons personally, but to recognize the motive and resist the pull to prove anything. You don't have to measure up to an imaginary rival someone else is projecting onto you. Instead, return to your path, root deeper into your values, and surround yourself with people who don't need to insert competition into every conversation. People who can witness your growth without feeling threatened by it, because you were never in a race, and people who love you will never act like you are. 8. Observe their behavior when they fail. Success reveals who supports you. Failure reveals who you really are. One of the clearest ways to spot insecurity, envy, or hidden deceit is to watch how someone handles personal failure. Not when things are going well. That's easy. When their plans fall apart. When the praise dries up. When there's no one to impress and nothing left to prove. That's when the truth surfaces. I've watched people who were calm, confident, even inspiring until the pressure hit. And suddenly they changed. Blame started flying. Stories got rewritten. Responsibility vanished. They became the victim of every detail, except the ones they actually controlled. And here's what you learn in those moments. Strength that disappears under failure was never strength. It was image. And for those who envy others, who define their worth by how they compare, failure feels like exposure. It shakes the mask loose, and rather than face it, they scramble to repair the illusion. Stoicism teaches us to do the opposite, to let failure teach, not shame, to meet it with reflection, not ego. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That's not a poetic metaphor. It's a command to face difficulty with clarity. Because those who blame others for their fall will blame you too, when it's convenient. Those who rewrite their failures will one day rewrite the role you played in their success. And if they can't take ownership of their own story, they'll find a way to twist yours. So how do you protect yourself? Watch what people do when things go wrong. Do they accept, reflect, adjust, or do they lash out, blame, and retreat into self-pity? Their reaction isn't about the situation. It's a window into their integrity. And while you're observing them, check yourself too. How do you respond to setbacks? Do you meet them with honesty? Or do you shield yourself with excuses? The Stoic path calls us to resilience, but not just the resilience to succeed. The resilience to stumble and stay true, to fall and not lose our face, to fail and still be ourselves. Because failure isn't what defines you. It's how you respond to it that tells the whole story. 9. Listen to how they speak about others. People reveal more about themselves when they talk about others than when they talk about themselves. Every criticism, every joke, every whispered story, it all carries fingerprints. And if you listen closely, you'll start to hear what's actually being said beneath the surface. Jealousy rarely walks through the front door. It sneaks in through gossip, through unnecessary comparisons, through the quiet enjoyment of someone else's failure disguised as just saying. Pay attention to the tone, the timing, the intent. Someone who speaks with constant judgment, always pointing out flaws, always framing others as less competent, less deserving, is often hiding a war within themselves. What they can't say directly, they try to say through others. And what they resent in someone else is often what they feel missing in their own life. That's why Stoicism urges us not just to listen, but to understand what we're listening to. Because every conversation is more than words. It's a reflection. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And the thoughts that leak out in speech are not just opinions, they're signs of someone's inner world. So what do you look for? Someone who constantly brings up what others are doing wrong, but never reflects on their own part. Someone who always has the latest piece of drama, but is never part of the solution. Someone who flatters to your face, then casually deconstructs someone else behind their back. If they do it to them, they'll do it to you. It doesn't mean you need to confront them. Stoicism isn't about unnecessary battles. It's about boundaries, distance, quiet awareness. You don't have to hate someone to realize they don't belong in your inner circle. And just as importantly, hold yourself to the same mirror. Ask, do my words about others reflect the kind of mind I want to carry? Do I build or diminish when I speak? Because what you say about others is never just about them. It's about you, your peace, your clarity, your depth. So listen, not for the drama, but for the patterns. Because in every conversation, character is speaking, even when the topic isn't. 10. Trust the feeling before the evidence. Sometimes you can't explain it. The words are right. The tone is friendly. The behavior seems fine. But something inside you says no. That feeling, the slight tension in your chest, the quiet discomfort you can't name, that's not paranoia. That's data. It's your subconscious picking up on patterns before your conscious mind can process them. And Stoicism, though rooted in reason, doesn't ignore instinct. It teaches us to respect it as an early warning system when logic hasn't caught up yet. You've felt it. Around someone who seems too nice, too agreeable, too ready to be helpful. And yet when they speak, when they laugh, when they look at you, something in the room feels off. Something inside you tightens. Stoicism doesn't ask you to panic in those moments. It asks you to pause, to observe, to give that instinct space to speak, because what you're sensing might be a misalignment between words and energy. Between appearance and intention. People who operate from envy or hidden motives often learn to speak the language of trust without ever meaning it. They know the right things to say. They mimic support. But they leave behind a residue, an emotional echo that tells the truth their words tried to cover up. That feeling you get, that's your system telling you something's not matching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." You can extend that wisdom. If it doesn't feel aligned, don't ignore it. And no, not every instinct is correct, but dismissing it entirely. That's how people end up in years-long relationships, draining partnerships, fake friendships they knew, deep down, were wrong from the start. So how do you move forward? You don't accuse, you don't explain, you listen, you watch, you wait. And over time, the truth always emerges. The mask slips, the tone shifts, the contradiction becomes visible. But by then, if you've trusted that early discomfort, you're already guarded, already less available, already protected. Stoicism teaches us to move through the world with open eyes and a steady heart. And sometimes the clearest vision starts with a whisper from within. So trust your logic, sharpen your perception, but don't ignore your instinct. Because when words lie, your body still tells the truth. Conclusion. The people who envy you won't always glare. Sometimes they'll smile, they'll congratulate you, they'll stand beside you in public and cheer, not for your success, but for the chance to be near it. And when the applause fades, they'll slowly, quietly start to chip away. Not all enemies shout, some whisper, some hug you a little too tight, some disappear just when it's your turn to shine. And if you're not grounded, if you're not watching, you'll let them in. You'll invite them to sit close. You'll confuse attention for loyalty. You'll mistake a performance for presence. That's why Stoicism matters, because it doesn't just help you stay calm. It helps you stay clear. It gives you tools to separate what's true from what's dressed up. It sharpens your instincts, but keeps your emotions steady. It teaches you not to hate those who deceive, but not to trust them either. It gives you distance, not out of pride, but out of peace. So what did we learn? We learned to watch actions, not words, to notice the silence behind forced applause, to recognize when support is real and when it's transactional. We learned to listen closely, not just to what's said, but to what's revealed. We learned to pay attention to how people treat the powerless, how they handle failure, and how they speak when they think it doesn't matter. And most of all, we learned that our peace is worth protecting. Not with paranoia, not with confrontation, but with quiet awareness and calm decisions. Because the truth is, you don't need to expose fake people. They'll do that themselves, with time, with inconsistency, with subtle betrayals they can't help but repeat. Your job is simply to notice, to adjust, and to walk away before they ever get close enough to drain you. So if this resonated, leave a comment below saying, "I did it." If you recognized even one tactic, one sign, one shift in perspective that helped you. Hit like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned, because this journey into clarity, discipline, and peace, we're just getting started. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and stay awake.